great title sequence should set the tone and give the audience an idea of what they are about to see. Fight Club is a great example, as we start off by being inside the narrator's head, played by Edward Norton, predicting the end of the movie, where we find out that he struggles with his mental health and that everything we have seen up till now is through his point of view. Opening image. Edward has a fearful look in his eyes, looking straight into the camera with the gun barrel in his mouth. A setup for the final image later on in the movie. One thing I have always noticed when watching a David Fincher movie is how every time we see a character for the first time, he or she looks directly into the camera.
Where have you been?
We have front row seats for this theater of mass destruction.
This is the first of many cool visual effects.
Mayhem.
Both the ideas and executions help the movie achieve its unique look.
Think of everything we've accomplished.
This next cut is awesome. The sound effects, the timing, and the way we get introduced to the boob joke is simply beautiful. Bob the crying man boob guy is played by Meatloaf, who we usually know as a badass.
You disobeyed my orders, son, why were you ever born? Your brother's 10 times better than you, Jesus loves him more.
They're gonna have to open up my pecs again and drain the fluid.
Jeff Cronenweth, the director of photography, deserves a toast. Every scene is filled with beautiful, original, or well thought out angles, and the movie would have missed out on so much without his wonderful work, especially considering this is his first feature film as a DOP.
One step closer to hitting bottom.
Edward Norton is actually taller than Meatloaf, and to look taller, Meatloaf had to wear platform shoes, just as Helena Bonham Carter.
Sure.
Fight Club does a great job at giving information without the use of words. We can tell that Edward is lying about all his sicknesses from him changing his name at every session, and the constant display of coffee in every scene is a nod to the fact that Edward is an insomniac.
Single serving sugar, single serving cream.
Even Tyler's orange sunglasses happen to be blue blockers, which is commonly worn by insomniacs, filtering out blue light, the color that reduces the production of melatonin, which is a hormone that helps you fall asleep.
Yeah, I guess so.
First time out of 5 where we see Tyler Durden before he's officially introduced in the movie. Welcome! The dreamlike sounds empathizing Edward's sleepy state slowly morphs into the sound of a monotone industrial telephone, waking him up from his dream state.
The IBM Stellar Sphere. The Microsoft Galaxy.
Oh, and did you know, due to the amount of reflective surface in this shot, this entire little effect sequence of 10 seconds took 3 whole weeks to render.
Sphere. Planet Starbucks.
First time I saw this framing, I thought it was a mistake. I mean, why not tilt the camera up so we can see the face of Edward's boss? But then I realized it was on purpose. The shot is a POV, and the voiceover helps us realize this.
It must have been Tuesday. He was wearing his cornflower blue tie.
You want me to deprioritize my current reports?
Both funny and original. And actually, the use of voiceover was not implemented until the second draft of the movie.
Pep must have had his grande latte enema.
David Fincher insisted on having the voiceover as it provides an element of comic relief and plays such a big part in the end result in the movie.
I'd like to order the Erica Picari dust ruffles.
Cool way to illustrate that Edward's home is a replica of an IKEA display. The crew pulled off this effect by using a motion control camera, which is able to make the exact same camera pan every take. First time with Edward alone in the shot, then again and again with the new furniture for every new shot. This is also the same camera technique used on The Hobbit. By syncing 2 separate cameras at 2 separate locations, the crew could mix the 2 shots and make Gandalf seem much bigger.
Excuse me, Mr. Gandalf. May I tempt you with a cup of chamomile?
Oh, no thank you, Dory. A little red wine. For me, I think.
Have it all.
Instead of having 2 static shots, one on Bob and one on Edward, we get to slide from one side to another as Bob opens up, ending with Edward's comforting tap on his back.
Big rubbery one.
What could have been 2 boring close-up shots are elevated into original and dynamic tracking shot. The use of an echo effect sells this cut, giving us the feeling of actually being there in the cave.
Where does it lead? to your cave. Step forward.
The visual effects guys on Fight Club are the same ones that were on Titanic. And the visual breaths seen coming out of Edward's mouth are the same used on Leonardo DiCaprio.
Get out of here. You're gonna go on.
Sliding in or out of a scene is used a couple of times, which is an effect used quite often by Steadicam operators in live television.
If you come inside, things will not.
They help add a lot of energy to an act or scene. The environmental sounds of the scene match the beat. Listen to the airport personnel over the speaker.
SFO, LAX,
And the birch chipping, which mixes with the airport speaker again.
BWI, Pacific, Mountain, Central, lose an hour, gain an hour.
Kevin Mack, the visual effects guy, gets a little role in the movie. The way Fight Club gives you small hints about Edward and Tyler being the same person is done in a very intelligent way.
Sometimes Tyler spoke for me.
Fell down some stairs.
I fell down some stairs.
Someone very, very close to you. Tyler's words coming out of my mouth.
It's a great way of engaging the audience, giving them small clues throughout the movie.
This conversation is over.
A toast for not trying to hide the twist, but implying it cleverly throughout the movie.
You're the one who gave me this.
Please return your seat backs to their full, upright, and locked position.
The sound recordings of the movie is not the best. Often I feel the actors' lines are muddy and hard to understand.
Did you know if you mixed equal parts of gasoline and frozen orange juice concentrate, you can make napalm?
Which is a shame, considering the vast amount of information given to us in every single scene.
Really? If one was so inclined.
And while we're talking about information, I have seen the movie numerous times now and know it like the back of my hand. But I remember having a hard time processing all the information given to me the first couple of times. As an audience, we sometimes need to take a breath for a second or two, especially considering the movie's over 2 hours long.
How I came to live with Tyler is, airlines have this policy about vibrating luggage.
Even though this movie's more to the dark side, it still has a lot of comedic elements. From
My
jokes
suitcase was vibrating.
9 times out of 10, it's an electric razor, but every once in a while, it's a dildo.
to how the characters act. Like here, when Tyler checks himself out in the car mirror in the middle of a fight. I love the color grading of this movie. David Fincher stated that the crew went for a lurid look that would copy the tone of a 7-Eleven store at nighttime. And notice how the movie goes from a plain to colorful look the more we get to know Tyler Durden. Convenient that Edward finds Marla's number, and that the paper isn't all burned. This scene is lovely. Even though it's full of valuable information about Tyler's character, it still feels like a break from the whole movie.
Be there to switch the projectors at the exact moment that one reel ends and the next one begins. If you look for it, you can see these little dots come into the upper right-hand corner of the screen.
In the industry, we call them cigarette burns.
It's educational, original, and a comic relief all in one.
Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
Nice big.
Penis, the male reproductive organ, also known as tallywhacker, schlong, or...
Wiener? Any of you kids want another wiener?
Edward Norton actually really hits Brad Pitt.
Mother... hit me in the ear!
David Fincher pulled him aside before shooting the scene and told him to do so. The sound effect matches the downward camera tilt. A chance to make a cool cut is totally missed here. You already have a free cut to black. Why not cut directly to a POV of the cellar door opening next or something? Instead of showing the same boring shot of Marla talking on the phone, we see her talk from several different angles, also helping to flesh out her character.
No for-real suicide thing. This is probably one of those cry for help things.
This scene is inspired and a tribute to Blade Runner.
On the third floor where I might not have heard them.
The sex scene between Tyler and Marla was shot using the same technique used in The Matrix. 15 still cameras were set up in a circle and later edited together and enhanced with CG. As both Brad Pitt and Helena Bonham Carter were fully clothed in motion capture suits during the filming. Even though rule number 6 of Fight Club is no shirts, no shoes.
6th rule, no shirts, no shoes.
Bob fights with his on. Tyler talks about rock stars while looking at Jared Leto.
Been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars.
The front singer of the rock band 30 Seconds to Mars. A fun little sequence where their homework consists of starting a fight with a total stranger.
Hey, watch out, come on!
And the song choice helps make the scene even funnier. Camera shakes for a split second. David Fincher has stated that this was not intentional. The camera operator laughing at the actors caused the shaking. In this whole scene, Edward's boss, Richard, never says a single word, but his expressions, actions, and way of handling the whole situation tells us all we need to know.
What the hell are you doing?
Perfect example of showing and not telling. Cool little effect. And a toast for all the original ideas used throughout the movie. Tyler Durden's awesome fashion style deserves a toast.
If you could fight any celebrity, who would you fight?
Especially his awesome sunglasses. There are a couple of things annoying me in this scene. First, why have Meatloaf do a fat guy accidentally dropping his pants joke when his fat suit is clearly visible? And second, when you cut to the same angle, you gotta have your continuity in order, which is clearly not the case here. Choosing which sounds to include or exclude helps us get into the mind of Jared Leto. Intensifying the scene even more. Funky and original camera movement. Starbucks didn't mind all their coffee cups used in the movie, but trashing a Starbucks store was too much for them. So David Fincher changed the name of the coffee shop to Gratifico Coffee instead. The dynamic in this sequence works perfectly. The tracking, the cuts, it shows so much in such a short time.
I'm looking for Tyler Durden. It's very important that I talk to him.
I wish I could help you, sir.
And notice how a movement from one shot cuts with the movement of the next.
Went to all the cities on Tyler's used ticket stubs, bar hopping.
It's official. Edward and Tyler are the same person. As Edward thinks back and starts adding things up, we see a lot of jump cuts that give us a lot of subconscious uncomfortableness, which Edward is also feeling right now.
Oh my God.
Listen to the ding sound in the background.
You're intolerable.
It's a shame that the crew didn't put it right after Marla tells Edward he is spectacular in bed. That way the joke would be much stronger. This is how it would look with the ding at the right timing.
You're funny. You're spectacular in bed. But
sound of the bus door closing mixes into the beat of the next soundtrack. Cool and effective way to show that Edward can't run away from Tyler Durden inside his head. A very smart idea using the security camera system as a way to step out of Edward's head and see the true reality. That's not Edward Norton. This roast is not given for using a stunt double. That I can accept. But at least make him look like Edward in the scene. Where is the dark wet sweat mark and the blood on his face? Perfect song choice, which slowly escalates with the scene.
Everything's gonna be fine.
Final image. Edward and Marla holding hands witnessing the climax of Project Mayhem. A beautiful shot with awesome effects that wraps up not only the main story but all the sub-stories as well. All in all, Edward has flipped his life 180 degrees since the opening image of this movie. Literally 180 degrees.